The process of creating styles for mobile phones is exactly the same as for tablets. The only difference is that you're dealing with a much narrower width, so it's mainly a question of adjusting margins, padding and font sizes. I don't intend to go through the whole process, but just concentrate on a couple of important points, mainly reorganizing the navigation menu and dealing with inline images like this, which will probably be too big for most mobile phones. So let's open the phone style sheet. I'll just quickly add a couple of basic styles. The first one is for the wrapper. The width of the wrapper will be 100%, but we've got a slightly smaller background image for the banner. And then we need to change the size of the font in the heading and in a couple of headings. The important thing that I need to do is to deal with the navigation. So it's the nav ID, and the width will be 308 pixels. The idea is that I'm targeting smartphones which are normally about 320 pixels wide, so this gives a little bit of margin on both sides. So there'll be 0 margin on top of the nav unordered list, but auto on both sides and 5 pixels underneath. And I'm using the last child pseudo class to position the last of the menu items. The way I've designed it is that there will be 2 menu items side by side, so that the last one needs to be centered. So to do that, we give it a margin left of 74 pixels. So let's turn on live view and select a 380 by 420 smartphone. So there's the menu nicely redesigned for the much smaller screen of a smartphone. Now let's just exit live view and return the screen to its full size. What I need to do is to deal with these images because they're going to be far too big in a smartphone. So the first thing I need to do is to remove the height. The reason for doing that is that I'm going to control the width of the images using CSS, and by doing so, if I leave the height in the underlying HTML markup, the images will become distorted when the width is changed by CSS. The inline images are in classes called float left and float right, so I'll create a rule for float left and float right. And what I want to do is to stop the images floating. So it'll be float none. And then I will set them to have a maximum width of 290 pixels. So that will fit within the 320 pixel size of an average smartphone screen. And I want them to display as blocks. And to have a margin at the top and bottom of 0.5 mm, 0.5 mm, and auto for the horizontal margins. As a result, they'll be centered. So let's just turn on live view again and go back to the smartphone size. Now the reason that this is happening is because I've not yet made the changes to the rest of the styles. We've still got the original styles from the basic style sheet cascading through, so let's just quickly fix that. And I need to create a style rule for the content wide, content medium, and aside classes. And we're going to stop them floating, give them an automatic width, and then make some changes to the margins and padding. And just refresh live view by clicking it on and off. And there we are. The containers are no longer floating, they're automatic width, and you can now see that the images sit nicely in the middle of the columns, and they're no longer the original width, which would have been far too much for a smartphone. I've added other style rules in the files in the Torzai Hotel Finish folder, but I've covered all the main points in this series of videos. I hope you've enjoyed this excursion into optimizing sites for multiple devices using media queries.